Hey bookworms, it's Jade from Bedtime Bookworm and welcome back to my channel. Today is the start of another reading vlog. Okay guys, obviously I've had a little bit of change of scenery. I am currently on vacation and it's time for me to check in with you guys on what I've been reading over the last week. It's been a week and a day or two, I think, since my last check-in. This lighting isn't as great as I had hoped. It's not terrible, but I'm sitting under like a porch and so I feel like my face is darker than I would like, but I thought I'd show off the pretty trees in the background. They're a lot prettier in real life than they look on camera, but whatever. Since my last check-in, I have finished a book and started two books. The book that I have finished, I'm sure you can guess, is The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. By the time this video goes up, I will have already posted my March reading wrap-up where I talk about my final thoughts. Man, and now it's getting even sunnier, but then my face gets dark. Whatever. It's fine. So in my last check-in, I was like 25% into The Broken Girls, and I was saying that, I don't know, it kind of is reading like a 5-star read, and I'm really enjoying it. Well, I did really enjoy it. I had a lot of fun reading it, but it didn't end up being a 5-star read for me. In the end, I gave it a 4-star read. I don't really know if it was like a 4.5 that I rounded down or not, but somewhere between a 4 and a 4.5. If we're gonna get real specific. Let's see, the things that I enjoyed about it were the twists and turns. I was definitely engaged and constantly wanting to know what was gonna happen next, and I had so many questions, so many people I was suspicious of, and I was trying to like connect all the dots and things, so all of that was really fun. I think that the romance in the book I also really enjoyed. It was not too romance heavy. I just liked the relationship that the main character had with her boyfriend. I think the main reason why this ended up not being a 5-star read is that it ended up being a little bit, I don't want to say cliche, but just like a normal thriller. Like there were things about it that you would expect to see in a thriller. For example, the main character makes a few dumb decisions that when I was reading, there's a bee, that when I was reading, I was like, really? Are you really gonna do that? That's stupid. So things like that were a little bit frustrating. I mean, it kind of makes for a good story, I guess, when the main character is making dumb decisions. I really liked the spooky atmosphere. I think this would make a great fall read, and I really enjoyed listening to this book at night because it gave me the creeps. But yeah, I'd say the main reason I didn't give it 5 stars was just that it was, I don't know, nothing too surprising. It just felt like a thriller that I have read before in some ways. I guess if you've read a ton of thrillers, you might be like, oh, it's nothing special. But I definitely recommend it. It was a lot of fun, and I know a lot of my patrons really enjoyed it too. Okay, and then the next book that I started would be Flamefall by Rosaria Munda. I talked about in my last reading vlog that it was a couple days before the book came out, and I wasn't sure if I was going to splurge and like buy it because my library hadn't really gotten a copy of it in yet that I could put on hold or anything, and that's exactly what ended up happening. I really wanted to read this book, and I really enjoyed the first book, Fireborn, and I wanted to throw my support behind the author. Oh, actually, the thing that made me decide for sure was I looked up the audiobook narrators, and one of the male narrators for Flamefall and for Fireborn is the guy that plays young Tom Riddle in the Harry Potter movie. So the fact that he's an actor, I just thought he would do a really good job, and I listened to a sample and I really liked the narrator. So I ended up actually buying both the ebook and the audiobook for both Fireborn and Flamefall. I justified it to myself in that I thought that when the third book comes out, which won't be for like at least another year, that there's a good chance I'll want to reread them and kind of like binge them all together. Or at least I want to have the option to do that without worrying about trying to get it from the library or anything. And like I said, Fireborn is like basically my favorite book that I've read all year, so I didn't mind splurging a little bit on it. And I am technically doing this as a buddy read with my friend Alan from the Library of Alexandria. I believe he finished it last night, and I'm only like 45% into it, so I'm behind, which is not new when it comes to buddy reads. I'm always, or often, the slower reader, but Man, this first 40-45% I have thoroughly enjoyed. I really liked the way that it opened. The author was able to do kind of like a reminder or a recap, there's a B, of the things that went down in the first book, but it was like really natural, and just the relationship between the two main characters and all of the politics. It's like this series is one of those where I just fully and completely understand the point of views and the feelings of each of the main characters. So even when there's like conflict between the two of them, I just feel for both of them because I just want them to be happy, but I can totally see like each person's side and why they might be upset about something. I just love books like that where you really get to know the characters and you really understand where they're coming from, and then you, the reader, are so conflicted because like you just get it, and that's what I love about these books. I haven't gotten to anything super emotional yet, a little emotional, but not super emotional, and I just hear that like the rest of the book is pretty traumatic's not the word. Like there's a lot of turmoil in the rest of the book, so I'm anxious to see what I'm going to think about the rest of it, but I'm hoping to read a lot of it while I'm here on vacation. Really enjoying that so far, and I am dying to finish it so I can share more of my thoughts with Alan and with Elliot Brooks as well. We've got a little Voxer chat between the three of us. And then the other book that I have started in April, I almost said March, is Malice by Heather Walters. I mentioned this I think in my TBR because I got an advanced reader copy, an e-arc from NetGalley for this, and this book comes out either in March or early April, so I felt like I needed to read it in March. This is a fairy tale retelling. It's a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, but from like the villain's point of view, and it's like a sapphic romance where Princess Aurora, Sleeping Beauty, is supposed to fall in love with the like evil sorceress character. And I unfortunately decided last night, after getting to about 25%, I feel pretty confident in deciding to DNF this book. I always hate when that happens, especially, well, anytime, but especially when I'm reading an advanced reader copy that I got approved for, because obviously I request things because I'm hopeful that I will like them. But I knew this one was a risk because I've never read this author before. She's a debut author. I just thought the plot sounded really interesting, and in general, I really like fairy tale retelling, so I thought I was gonna like this one. There's nothing like terribly wrong with it. It just isn't a good fit for my taste. So let me tell you about the few things that were red flags for me. First, my first impressions and first red flag was that the world building does seem interesting, but it's definitely a lot of showing and not telling, a little bit info dumpy in the beginning. I did learn a lot about the world, but I just didn't enjoy the way the information was delivered to me. And I also think that this book appeals more to people who are into more like romance. I mean, the romance has barely gotten started, really, but I can tell that it's more centered around the romance, which I guess I should have realized from the synopsis. But also there's a lot of like pretty dresses, there's drama between girls, kind of like a Mean Girls thing going on, or, you know, even though it's a Sleeping Beauty retelling, I can see some parallels with like Cinderella, and Cinderella having like the mean stepsisters. In this book, they're not mean stepsisters, but there are these girls that live with the evil sorceress character, but they don't like her and they're kind of mean to her. So there's a lot of like drama around that I just don't really care for. Around like 20%, there's like a ball or something, which again reminded me a little bit of Cinderella. It's for Aurora's birthday. Oh, and you know what? I guess these characters aren't teenagers. Aurora's turning 20, so maybe they're around that age. I couldn't really figure out what age category this book would be, just based off of like reading it. At first I was thinking it was YA, but it might be more like, I don't know, like new adult. Like I don't know if there's gonna be specific, or not specific, like really descriptive sex scenes or not, because I didn't get that far. But the girls, I guess, are like around 20. But anyways, there's a ball, and there's like a lot of stuff about what they're wearing to the ball. It's a masquerade where you wear masks and stuff. I don't know, it just like, it focused on things that I wasn't really that interested in. And after I'd read 25% of it, which is like a little over 100 pages, I think this book it's somewhere between 400 and 500 pages, so not a terribly short book either. Because I'd read a quarter of it and I just like couldn't care less about what was going on. And I have so many books. If you guys saw my TBR, you know that I have so many books that I want to read this season, especially in April. So I am giving up on it. I am DNFing it, which means that I'll probably give it 2 stars. I was kind of toying with the idea of giving it 3 stars. In the end, 3 stars means that I would have liked it enough to finish it, which in this case is not the case. So I'm going to give this 2 stars, and it'll be my first official DNF of the year, I guess. I mean, I didn't hate it. It was a mismatch for me. Not the kind of book that I want to read. Okay, so those are the things that I have been reading over the last week, and I am planning to read a bunch this week. We'll see. It's already Tuesday of my vacation, so we'll see how much reading I actually get done, because I haven't done a whole lot yet. But I'm definitely excited to be out in this area and just like hanging out. We're going on lots of walks every day. There's a disc golf course, like a small 9-hole disc golf course. I don't know if you guys know what disc golf is. Some people call it frisbee golf. Technically, it's called disc golf. My husband's really into it. I've played with him a few times, and this is like a really easy, small course, so we've played a few times, and that was a lot of fun. So just relaxing. This is a little bit of a baby moon for us, because it's probably the last time we're going to be able to get away, just the 2 of us, for like a week. We might be able to do a weekend getaway before the baby comes, but probably not a full week like this. So we're just having a relaxing time, nothing too crazy, and I'm hoping to get a decent amount of reading and some like booktube stuff done while I'm out here. So anyways, I feel like I've rambled for a while. Those are the things that I've been reading, and I will check in with you guys in about a week. Bye. Hey guys, as you can see, I am back home now, and it is time to close out this reading vlog. I read a decent amount while I was on vacation last week, so I have a few things to update you on. First, I finished Flamefall by Rosaria Munda. That was my main priority while I was on vacation. I was listening to the audiobook, and I have to say the narrators, there's more than one, are fantastic. I definitely recommend this series on audiobook if you guys want to give that a shot. But yeah, so I finished Flamefall and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not surprised. I think when I checked in with you guys, I was like somewhere between 30 to 40% in. I had said that like I hadn't gotten emotional yet, but I thought that something emotional was going to happen. Well, sure enough, right after I filmed that clip, the stuff that I read that night made me cry. But I think that might be the only time I cried in the whole book, was something that happened kind of like in the middle. But the whole thing was just so good. I love all of the politics. There's some like twists and surprises a little bit, like things that surprised me at least. And just the relationship between all the characters is so good. I don't even know how to talk about this series. I love everything about it. I love the dragons, the politics, the relationship, the romance, the writing, the audiobook narration. I gave it a 5-star rating. If I had to pick between sorry, I'm combining two of the book names. If I had to pick between Fireborn and Flamefall, I would say that I enjoyed Fireborn a little bit more. I think Fireborn is a little more nuanced and focuses maybe a little more on the characters, and that Flamefall has a little more action, which if you just like it said that to me, I would say I would prefer the one with more action, but I don't know. I think I enjoyed Fireborn just a tad bit more, but I still really enjoyed Flamefall. You get introduced to a new POV that I really enjoyed seeing from that person's point of view. I just thought it was fascinating. I just absolutely loved it. I cannot wait for the third book, which, because the second one just came out like last week or the week before, it's gonna be like a year at least before we see the next book, which makes me very sad, but that is why I splurged and bought both the first and second books so that I can reread them next year before the final installment comes out. But I am so happy I found this series. I love it so much. I don't want to overhype it for people because I'm sure it's not going to be some people's cup of tea, but it's one of the best books series that I've read in a really long time. Another book that I started last week while on vacation was The Toll by Neil Shusterman. It is the third and final book in the Arc of the Scythe series. I am buddy reading this with my husband. We had planned to try and read it all while we were on vacation, and while we did make a point to listen to some of it almost every day, we didn't make it very far. I would say we're like 33% of the way through the book. But what we have read, which we're listening to the audiobook, because the audiobook narrator for the series is fantastic. Highly recommend the audiobooks. But we're enjoying what we have listened to so far. We definitely keep pausing the audiobook to talk theories and things like that. There was like a moment that I had been waiting for a really long time that didn't happen until maybe like 15, maybe 20% into the book, that I was just like dying for this moment to happen, and it finally happened. And that was satisfying but also surprising in other ways. I really like where the story's going. Obviously, we're still really early into it, but I am excited to see where the rest of it goes. I am actually going out of town this next week, so I won't be with my husband to listen to it with him, so we're gonna have to put this on the back burner again, which does make me a little bit sad, but I told him that I really want to prioritize it and finish it before the end of the month, so I don't know when I'm gonna have another Toll update, but hopefully within April. Another book that I started was this one behind me, Jade City by Fonda Lee. I have this on ebook and the physical book from my library. I own the ebook, I'm pretty sure. I think I bought it on a sale at some point. And then I have a friend who very kindly offered to let me borrow her Audible account because she has the audiobook for Jade City and she knows I love audiobooks that have good narrators, and she was like, it's so worth it. It's a really good narrator, which that just happened today. I've just been reading it on the ebook so far, but I'm excited to have the audiobook because, like I said, I'm about to go out of town for a little bit and I will definitely be needing an audiobook. So I'm excited that I get to listen to it. Anyways, I am about 20% into Jade City. It's off to a good start. I haven't had really any issues with it. It's definitely not really my typical kind of book because it's an urban fantasy and it's got kind of like these gangster vibes, like people describe it as being kind of like a fantasy Godfather or something. I do think the magic is interesting with how it works with jade. Only certain people can wear jade, and when they do, it makes them like stronger and have more like abilities, which is really interesting. There's some like martial arts fighting kind of stuff. I don't know. There's gangsters. It's Asian inspired. It's interesting. I don't have too many more thoughts on it other than that so far. Oh, and I will add that this is my Patreon book club book for April. So in early May, I'm going to be discussing this with my Patreon book club, and I'm super excited to see what everyone's going to think about it. If you're interested in my Patreon book club, at the very bottom of my description box, there is a link to my Patreon that explains the different tiers and all of that. And then the last thing I want to talk about is a book that I've already finished, and I say book hesitantly, it's not a book. It was a short story, and that is A Dead Djinn in Cairo by P. Jelly Clark. This is, like I said, a short story. It's only 43 pages. And the audiobook is on Scribd, which is how I read it. The audiobook was only like an hour, and I speed up my audiobook, so I think I read it in like 45 minutes, so super short. I actually just read it yesterday, and I'm reading it because there is a full-length novella coming out set in this world next month in May, and I have an advanced reader copy of that from NetGalley. When I requested it, I didn't realize that it was part of a series. I don't know if you really have to read the two things that come before it, but there's this short story and then a novella, and I'm trying to read both of those this month before I pick up that full-length novel. Anyways, this series and this short story is pretty interesting. I ended up giving it 3 stars, mainly just because it's really short. It's only 43 pages. So while I enjoyed it, it was also like I could take it or leave it. It just was so short. There wasn't that much to it. But I do think the world is really interesting. So it takes place in like an alternate reality, alternate history Cairo. And in this world, jinn exists, magic is real, and angels, or at least something they refer to as angels, exist. And it's a detective story. At the very beginning, they find a dead djinn, hence the name A Dead Djinn in Cairo. But yeah, I thought the main character was interesting. It was a fun little detective story. The world building is definitely interesting. I'm excited to learn more about that in the later books. So it was fun, but I don't really have a whole lot to say about it because it was so short, and that's why I gave it 3 stars. Short fiction is kind of hit or miss with me because I really enjoy spending a lot of time with characters, and obviously I didn't get that, but it's definitely piqued my interest, and I'm excited to be reading more things set in this world. Alright guys, so those are the things that I have been reading over the last week. I have a lot of things I want to read in April, so I'm hoping to get through some of this stuff pretty quickly. Even though I'm traveling, it's always hard to know how much I'm going to read when I travel. Typically on travel days, I read a lot, but then when I'm somewhere visiting a friend, like I'm going to be, then a whole lot of reading doesn't get done then, so it's a little hit or miss. Who knows how much I'm going to read in the next week. I've got kind of a pretty busy April, and for anyone who is curious or concerned, I have been fully vaccinated for a couple of weeks now, and that's why I feel comfortable traveling. Anyways, I think that is all I have for now. Let me know down in the comment section if you guys have read any of these books and what you thought of them, or what you've been reading over the last couple of weeks. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content. That is all I have for now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bookworms, keep reading. Bye.